I would like to welcome you to today's program, Scams Targeting Consumers. My name is Angela Scott, and I'm the Adult and Community Services Manager for the Columbia Public Library. I'd like to thank you all for joining us this afternoon. Our presenter today is Michelle Gleba from the Better Business Bureau. We are recording today's presentation for the library's YouTube channel. Feel free to put your questions in the chat, and Michelle will answer them at the end of the presentation. And now I'll turn things over to Michelle.
Thank you, Angela. It's an honor to be here today, and I would just like to say thank you to Daniel Boone Regional Library for this opportunity, and thank you to all of you who are participating in this webinar today. So for this presentation, what I would like to do is to briefly go over BBB's history, how we're organized, provide an overview of what we do and why. I'd like to cover some of the free services that BBB offers to the public. I will go over some of the top scams that get reported to our office and discuss ways that you can protect yourself from becoming a victim of these types of scams. It's my hope that by the end of the presentation, you'll have learned something that perhaps you didn't previously know about the Better Business Bureau, and that you'll be able to identify resources that you can take advantage of for free. So do you suffer from sores, vertigo, insomnia, itching, or the pox, or perhaps some other ailment? If you do, I've got a cure for you, and it's called snake oil. Now, the reason I'm showing you this is because obviously this isn't a cure, but this is one of the main reasons Better Business Bureau was founded. Back in 1912, when there was all kinds of deceptive advertisements going on, such as things that snake oil salesmen sold, a group of small businessmen in Minneapolis, Minnesota got together and said, you know what, we need to do something to stop the fraud that's going on. So they decided to form the very first Better Business Bureau. By the time 1917 came around, the St. Louis Better Business Bureau was founded, and it became the sixth BBB in the entire nation. And the St. Louis BBB is also the office that oversees the Columbia BBB. We are governed by an International Association of Better Business Bureaus. It's a board that oversees all of the BBBs throughout the country and governs what we do. But every single BBB in the country has a local board of directors, and they provide advice and guidance on what we do. We are a nonprofit organization, and all of the work that we do is made possible through the financial support of about 9,500 BBB accredited businesses. What's an accredited business? This is a business who has met our standards of trust. And here in mid-Missouri specifically, there are close to 600 BBB accredited businesses. This next slide shows you the map of the service region for the St. Louis BBB. Again, the St. Louis BBB oversees the office here in mid-Missouri. So here in mid-Missouri, there are 13 counties that are covered by the Columbia BBB. The St. Louis office also has a regional office in Quincy, Illinois, one in Springfield, and one in Cape Girardeau. So everything you see in blue is covered by the St. Louis BBB. So what is our mission? Our mission is to be the leader in advancing marketplace trust. How do we fulfill our mission? We do this a number of ways. We set standards for marketplace trust. We encourage best practices by engaging and educating consumers and businesses. We celebrate marketplace role models. We call out and address substandard marketplace behavior, and we try to work to create a community of trustworthy businesses and charities. So how do we do that specifically? We do that in a number of ways. There are approximately 14.5 million instances of free public service that we offered in 2020, and they cover everything that you see on this slide. And I'll go through each of these with you. The first one is our business profile. So when you visit BBB's website at bbb.org, there's a couple of things you can do. You can search for a specific company and put in the location, and then find their business profile. Or let's say you're not sure which company you're interested in checking out, but you know that you want to hire a home remodeling contractor. You can type in the category, the industry that you're looking for, as well as the location, or you can put in no location and you'll see search results. And this particular example is of Accounting Plus here in Columbia. And you can see when you look at their profile, you can find out a number of different things. You'll be able to see immediately if they're BBB accredited. You can look at their letter ranking, which goes from A to F. And when it comes to letter rankings, we look at how long a business has been in business. We look at how well they respond to complaints and things of that nature. You can find out if there are any customer reviews that have been posted. You can also look at any customer complaints that have been posted as well. And you can also see how the business responded to those complaints and those reviews. So there's a lot that you can find out by researching different businesses on our website. And if a business is BBB accredited and you're interested in using them, you can request a quote from them. Our website is not limited to just BBB accredited businesses. We have all businesses on our website. If there's a business that you're aware of that's not on our website, it could be that we just don't have enough information about them. We also offer free dispute resolution, and this is one of our most popular and widely used services. And I highly encourage people to take advantage of it if they need to. Basically, we work as a neutral third party between the consumer and the business to help you resolve your situation. So let's say, and we all experience this from time to time, we have an issue with a business and we've tried to work it out with the business. And for whatever reason, a resolution did not occur. If you are still unsatisfied, you can come to us and file a complaint. And again, we work as a neutral third party between you and the business to help you resolve that complaint. In most cases, the complaints get resolved to the satisfaction of both parties, but occasionally it does not. And in rare cases, we bring in outside arbitrators who will sit down with the consumer and the business and help you come up with a satisfactory resolution. We also offer advertising review, and this is something that not a lot of people know about, but basically BBB has a code of advertising, and it's basically standards that businesses should abide by when it comes to their advertisements. And the way that this works is that as a consumer, if you here in Mid-Missouri happen to see a newspaper ad or something on social media or on TV or the radio, and you feel that there's something misleading, false, or not quite right about that ad, you can come to us and for free, we'll review it. If we agree with you, then we will work with the business to try to get that advertisement corrected. We also offer free charity information. So from time to time, you may be curious about a particular charity. Maybe it's one that you've never heard of before. You can visit our website and check out the charity, and you will see their profile, which is similar to a business's profile. You can see if they are an accredited charity, which means, again, that they've met our standards of trust. And usually there's a check mark here that shows that as well. If they haven't met our standards, then you'll see an X, and you can look at the chart on the right. And everything that you see at the bottom is basically the 20 standards of accountability that we look at in determining whether a charity is accredited. So we look at how a charity is governed, we look at how transparent they are, how they run their finances, and fundraising. We also offer free consumer e-newsletters. So if you're interested in signing up for an email newsletter from us, you can do that. It's no charge. And we will basically inform you of the different scams that are going on out there and give you consumer tips. And this typically comes out on a weekly basis. We also work very closely with the media to get the word out about scams we're seeing here in Mid-Missouri and across the nation. So if you're ever just interested, you can tune in to ABC 17 Thursdays. Typically, I'm on during the noon broadcast. I also have a segment every other Thursday on the Eagle Radio at 8:35. And then there's a monthly column that I write for the Columbia Daily Tribune and a weekly column in the Jefferson City News Tribune. And then this is an example of some of the in-depth investigations that we do. Typically in a year, we do about 4. And when we make a decision on doing an in-depth study, it's usually because we've noticed a trend. So we take a look at the complaints we've received. If we're seeing a lot of complaints in a certain type of scam, then we'll take a really in-depth look at that scam, figure out how it works, how people can protect themselves, and we basically come up with recommendations on what we think will help reduce that particular scam. And everything you see here are just examples of some of the most recent investigative studies that we've done. So there are quite a few different topics that we release information on, and we share that with the public. As you can see on the right, a lot of our investigative studies gets picked up not only here in mid-Missouri, but across the nation with national outlets and across the world as well. Okay, next I'd like to ask you a true or false question. Women are more susceptible to becoming the victim of a scam than men. If you feel that is true, if you could raise your hand. And Angela, I can't see anyone, so I don't know if you can tell me.
I haven't seen any hands raised yet.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, as you're thinking about that answer, I'll go ahead and share the answer with you. Are women more susceptible to becoming the victim of a scam than men? Is that true or false? The answer is true. So if you thought that, you were correct. But on average, male victims tend to lose more money per scam than females. And this chart just basically demonstrates that. You'll see on the left that men tend to lose a little bit more than women when it comes to scams. However, as you can see on the right, women are slightly more susceptible to falling victim to a scam than men. And then our research also shows on the bottom that when it comes to men, some of the top scams that they tend to fall for tend to include employment scams, travel and vacation scams, and home improvement. And when it comes to women, some of the top scams they tend to fall for are employment scams, online purchases, and romance scams. True or false, the older we get, the more susceptible to scams we become. If you want to think about your answer, and then I'll share that with you. So the answer is false. Young people, so people who are 18 to 29 years old, are the most susceptible to scams when compared to any other age group. But as we get older, the amount of money that we lose increases. And so this next chart shows you our research, where you can see that the 18 to 24 age group is more susceptible to scams than any other age group. And then the older we get, as you can see, the 65 plus, they tend to lose more money on average than any other age group. And then on the bottom, you can see like the age groups and the types of scams that those age groups tend to fall for. So when we look at the youth, people 18 to 24, employment scams, fake checks, money orders, and online purchases tend to be the top things where they get victimized. And then as we get older, some of the top scams that older people fall for: romance, investment, travel, vacation, employment, and tax support scams. And so next I'm going to go over some of the top scams that get reported to us. Obviously, there are many, many more, but I'm just going to share with you what most frequently gets reported to us. And one of those, which is probably not a surprise, is online shopping scams. And this is a scam that significantly increased during the pandemic with so many of us at home and shopping online. We saw a large number of complaints in this area. And anytime we receive a complaint, it typically involves where a consumer has bought something and it never comes, it's broken, or it's different than what the consumer expected. Perhaps they ordered something online and they asked a question and they were ignored by the company, or they ended up, unfortunately, on a fake website. And these fake websites can steal your personal information and your financial information. In other cases, people buy things online that they think are name brand, and they end up getting knockoffs. And this is so prevalent that our latest research showed that 1 in 3 people who purchase something online don't actually get the brand that they thought they were paying for. So that's a huge problem. And our advice when it comes to online shopping is, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. You want to make sure that you're familiar with that company's privacy policy, so you know how your personal and your financial information is being used. You want to check their refund and return policy. We also encourage you to shop with a credit card. If in case there's ever a situation where you need to dispute a charge, then you can more easily do that when you shop with a credit card. We also encourage you to make sure that you're on a secure website when you're shopping online. So hover your mouse over the URL. If you don't see this HTTPS, that's a red flag that you may be dealing with a fake or a scam website. So make sure that it has the correct URL. You also want to consider checking out the company with BBB, particularly if it's a company that you've never heard of before, you've never used. Check them out first, read any complaints and reviews that have been filed. Next are employment scams. This is a scam that's been around a long time, but again, it's one of those scams that rose to the top during the pandemic with so many people working at home. This type of scam usually takes on a number of different variations, but typically employment scams are usually the type of scams or job opportunities that sound very easy. It might be something like just envelope stuffing, entering data. Maybe it's a secret shopper. Maybe it's taking online surveys. So the appeal is that it sounds like an easy way to make money. And then typically with this scam, what happens is as soon as you sign up to work for this job, they send you a check and tell you that you need to deposit that check and use it to purchase the equipment that you need to work at home or some other reason. But at the end of the day, you're sent a check, and then typically they'll tell you either by mistake or on purpose they overpaid you. So they ask you to deposit the check and send them the difference. You do that and find out later that the check bounced. So we encourage people when it comes to, looking for employment opportunities, keep in mind things such as legitimate companies aren't going to charge you to apply for the job. You want to safeguard your personal information. So as you're applying for that position, really think about what it is you're sharing and why, and if you need to, and make sure that you verify the job offer. A lot of times you might come across a job on social media, maybe you get a text or an email. Instead of just trusting that source, go to the company's official website and make sure that that job actually does exist. Another top scam we see are tech support scams. This is something that's been around and it continues to be around here in mid-Missouri. It typically works a couple of different ways. Maybe you're on your laptop or your computer and you get a pop-up and it says that there's something wrong and you need to act quickly in order to fix the situation. Or you might get a phone call out of the blue telling you that they're with a tech company and that there's something wrong with your computer and they need remote access to your computer to fix the situation. They typically use scare tactics to try to convince you that it's urgent. And so what happens is if you end up clicking on that pop-up that you receive, you could end up installing virus malware or disable your computer. If you agree to whatever it is the person that's calling you is asking, you could be granting remote access to your computer where your personal and your financial information will be exposed to the scammer, or you could be paying over the phone for a problem that doesn't exist. So our tips are basically, if you get a call out of the blue saying that there's something wrong with your computer, hang up because it's likely a scam. Never give control of your computer to an unknown third party. You want to avoid clicking on any links or calling any tech support phone numbers that you might see on those pop-ups. Oftentimes, simply just shutting down your computer and restarting will remove the pop-ups. But if it doesn't, or if you think that there is something legitimately wrong with your computer, then take it to a trusted tech support company to get checked out. If you've been a victim of the scam, contact your bank immediately and let them know, and then change your passwords and make sure that you run the latest antivirus software on your devices. CEO email fraud is also an extremely popular scam that, again, is something that has hit mid-Missouri as well. If you happen to work for a company, it's not unusual for you to get an email. What if that email came from what you thought was your boss, your CEO, your president? Well, with this scam, they tend to ask you as an employee to either release sensitive information or provide financial information because it's urgent and they claim to be the CEO or boss of the company that you work for. Basically, scammers use social engineering when it comes to this particular type of scam. So they spend a lot of time. They get to know the company that you work for. They study your culture. They study the big projects you're working on. They look at your emails and how you do things. And then when they feel that they've got it down pat, that's when they target you and claim to be someone that they're not. When businesses lose money to this type of scam, it tends to be huge. The losses are very big. And in addition to targeting just regular employees that might work for a company, this scam tends to evolve. So over time, they tend to target maybe your director of finance or your director of human resources. They're going after some of the senior leadership as of late, because these are the types of positions that may have more easier access to sensitive information that they're seeking. So we do encourage people to, particularly if you are a manager or a director at your business, to educate your staff so that they are aware of the type of scams out there and to have processes in place for those times when unique situations might arise. Next are Social Security Administration scams. Again, this is something that is frequently happening here in mid-Missouri. I get reports of this all of the time. It used to be that, we would see lots of IRS scam reports, and that's where the scammer pretends to be with the IRS and says you owe back taxes and you must pay immediately or something bad will happen. Well, with the Social Security Administration scam, it's very similar. They typically will call you, maybe send you a text or an email, and they'll tell you that in some way your Social Security number has been compromised and you need to act immediately. And they may, of course, threaten you. In some cases, they say, they mention law enforcement if you don't act quickly. So we want you to be aware that this type of scam does exist. The Social Security Administration will never call you asking for your Social Security number or money. Don't trust your caller ID. There are a number of government imposter scams out there, and these scammers use technology to pretend to be an official organization. Never give out your Social Security number or personal information unsolicited. And if you sincerely believe that there could perhaps be something wrong with your Social Security number, then call the Social Security Administration yourself and let them know your concerns. Next are romance scams. A lot of people think, oh, this could never happen to me. But this is a huge scam. In fact, we've done 2 investigative studies on this type of scam within the past 5 years. So that just goes to show you that people are falling for this. And basically, the way that it works is perhaps either, and it tends to affect both men and women and people of all ages. You might be on social media, or maybe it's an online dating app, and you meet someone and this person claims to be someone that they're not. And they usually spend time grooming you, and they may try to isolate victims from their family and their support network. And then when they feel that they've gained your trust, they basically ask you for money. They usually claim that there's been some sort of emergency, and that's why they need for you to send them money. So we encourage people, obviously, if you've never met the person, don't send money to people, and do your due diligence. If you happen to be dating online, do things like reverse image searches. When you see a picture out there, you'd be surprised. I mean, there are time and time again, people come up, do image searches and find out that that person's picture is a stock photo, or maybe they learn that this person has scammed others. So do your research. And if you're interested in more tips on things you can do, we have a number of tips on our website as well. The grandparent scam is also something very popular, and it often takes on new twists depending on what's going on. So during the pandemic, this tended to have a pandemic aspect to it. But in a nutshell, the way that it works is that you receive a call. Sometimes it's in the middle of the night. You just woke up, you get a phone call. This person claims to be your grandson or your granddaughter, or maybe some other family member. And they usually say that they've been in some sort of emergency. Maybe, they've been thrown in jail. Maybe they had a medical emergency and they're in the hospital. And during the pandemic, maybe it was something related to COVID-19. And then they ask you to send them money. And so they're counting on you to basically be emotional, to not think clearly. And because they might do things like have the actual name of your family member, then that's something that they use to try to convince you that there's someone that they're not. Keep in mind that scammers, again, use social identity to scam people. So just like the scammer that takes time to study businesses before they scam them, well, these scammers take time to study you, the individual. So depending on how you have your online life out there, how you have your settings on your social media, they could spend time, checking out your page, learning who your family members are, what you like to do, et cetera, and then use that information to try to convince you that there's someone that they're not. We encourage people, if you think that there might even be a chance that there's any legitimacy to the emergency, to always verify your loved one's location before sending money. So it's important to remain calm and to do your due diligence. Online pet scams are another scam that we saw that significantly increased during the pandemic. A lot of people who've never owned a pet before suddenly are finding themselves under quarantine or isolated and deciding that they want a pet, which is a great thing. Pets are awesome. But we found that a lot of people were going online. They were coming across, cute pictures of pets. Maybe they saw a deal that seemed just, too good to pass up. And so they end up paying for pets that never arrive. A lot of times, many of the victims of this type of scam are in their 20s and 30s. But again, with the pandemic, that all changed because so many people fell victim to this type of scam over and over again. So we strongly encourage people, if you're interested in purchasing a pet, we encourage you to try to see it if you can. Also, just like in romance scams, where we encourage you to do reverse image searches of the person you're communicating with, do the same thing with that pet picture and see what comes up. And then do your research. Find out the prices of the breeds that you're interested in. So how can you protect yourself in general when it comes to scams? Well, this next slide goes over all of the different ways that you can protect yourself, some red flags to look out for. Anytime someone is asking you to pay for something through a gift card, or maybe they're insisting that the only way they want to get paid is by you wiring them money, that's a red flag that you're most likely dealing with a scam. In fact, gift card scams are typically something that we see in so many different types of scams. And we also did an investigative study on this topic because it's so prevalent. So the gift card is definitely a red flag if someone is asking you to pay through through that manner. Bad spelling and grammar. We just did an investigative study on sweepstakes, prize, and lottery scams. And that's one example of something I've seen where people have come to me and they said, look, it looks like I won some money, and they show me the letter and it's just filled with bad spelling and grammar left and right. It's only human, right, for us to come across that every now and then. But when it's something that you see over and over again in a text, in an email, in a letter that you get, that's a red flag that you're more likely dealing with a scam. Caller ID spoofing, I talked about that earlier. Just because it looks like it's coming from a legitimate organization doesn't mean that it is. So don't trust the name or the number necessarily that you're seeing on your caller ID. Be aware of pushy salespeople. So people who are insisting that you make a decision now, that you pay now, that you do something right now is a red flag that you're probably dealing with a scam. And of course, there are a number of imposters out there. There are government imposters, particularly that try to scam people. And there are scammers out there that also pretend to be BBB. So don't always trust that the person is with the organization that they say that they're with. Keep in mind that anytime that you're asked to pay money to make money, then you're more likely dealing with the scam. We always encourage people to safeguard your personal information. So no matter what it is you're doing, make sure that you're safeguarding that information, and particularly when it comes to unsolicited offers that you receive. And then finally, do your homework. So we encourage you to research companies, talk to your family, and talk to family, friends, people that you trust, organizations that you trust, and always remember that BBB is here in case you have questions. You can give us a call, or if you want to get on our website and research a company or learn more about a particular topic, you can do that. And then this is our scam tracker, which I highly encourage people, if you haven't used this tool, to do so, because it's a wonderful way to educate yourself about the scams going on right here in your community. So as you can see, I pulled up Columbia. It's an interactive map that you can click on, and the more that you click on an area, the closer it zeroes in on that area, and you'll be able to see the number of scams going on in certain parts of the area. So in Central Columbia, if my eyes are serving me correctly, it looks like there's 38 here. And then you can see by scrolling down the page, the type of scams that people reported. You can see whether or not people lost money, and then you can view the details of how that scam worked. Let's say that you are a victim of a scam and you want to report that, and maybe you didn't lose money, or maybe you did. Whatever the case may be, you can report the scam on our scam tracker. And what that's going to do is allow anybody who visits our scam tracker to see that that scam happened here in mid-Missouri. Let's say that you're doing research and you want to know about COVID-19 scams that are going on, specifically here in Missouri. You can go over to the left-hand side of this page and you can specifically search for that type of scam. And if there's a certain area that you want to search, you can do that, as well as dates. So again, this is a great educational tool to educate yourself, to educate your neighbors, and to let BBB know about what's going on. We use this information all of the time to share with other authorities. We use this as we work on our different investigative studies, and we use this when we go out and we talk to the public to let them know the type of scams going on. And then the final thing I wanted to mention with Scam Tracker is it's also a great tool to help family and friends. So perhaps you may have an elderly relative that lives, clear on the other side of the country, and they happen to not be tech savvy. And maybe you want them to be proactive and aware of what might be going on in their community. You don't just have to look at Columbia. You can look at anywhere throughout the United States and find out scams that are going on in that area. And that's all I have. Any questions?
Feel free to put your questions in the chat box, or if you would like, I can also unmute you. Just raise your hand and I will unmute you so you can ask your question in person, well, in voice. Well, while we're waiting, that was great. I had no idea of all the resources. You know, you think you know these things, and we help people find stuff all the time. But I love the lookup tool where you can look up all different businesses and see how they're rated or if they have any complaints. I found that very interesting.
Yes, I don't know about you, but I'm on social media quite a bit, and it seems like if not once a day, then more than that, people, my friends, are always looking for recommendations. And as they post this, I always think, BBB, this is, in addition to asking your friends and family, always remember you can go on BBB, you can see if they're accredited, and like you said, read the reviews and complaints. So it's a great tool, and we're always, I think, looking, for recommendations and in terms of, the different services that we need. So, just keep us in mind.
Yeah, we had someone say it's wonderful to know how many services you provide. So that's great. The scam tracker, I feel like that's going to be my next little thing to go through and see what's going on around. Yeah, well, there is Michelle's information there. So if maybe you don't want to ask any questions or can't think of anything right now, feel free to reach out to Michelle and ask any questions that you have. And thank you so much, Michelle, for sharing all of this information with us. We're so glad you reached out. You're welcome. So everyone, have a great afternoon, and thank you.